All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to All Things Odd. I'm Dr. Natalie Phillips.
And I'm Mary Kate.
Okay, so happy leap year, first of all. We have an exciting topic for you today, but I'm going to have Mary Kate just review our YouTube real quick.
Yeah, so like you guys know, we have our YouTube channel. So every week when we do our live shows, they get uploaded to our YouTube. We like to put them in kind of these different playlists so that you can kind of see a topic that we're talking about and kind of parse through it based off of that. The YouTube's a really great idea, especially for people who don't have Facebook, or if you kind of want to like go back and revisit some of our older videos. You can share these with your friends. Super easy to just like share through a link. And then honestly, you can just watch the whole playlist of them.
Yeah.
We're really focused on trying to boost our YouTube presence. So we've been getting a bunch of new subscribers, really happy for all of our new subscribers. And we're just kind of hoping to keep building that. So give us a like and subscribe.
All right. So we have a fun topic for you guys today because February 29th, as you guys all know, is leap year. And so, or leap day, but we are in a leap year. So we wanted to kind of share a little bit about what is leap year and how it came to be. So to understand why February 29th is most important, we need to talk about the time and the calendar. So our calendar is based on the Gregorian calendar, which has 365 days in a year, but Earth takes about 365.25 days to orbit the sun. So every 4 years, we add an extra day to our calendar to catch up with the Earth's orbit. And this extra day is the 29th of February, which is often called leap day. And the year it happens is also called leap year. So the idea of leap year dates back all the way to ancient civilizations as the Egyptians and Romans and others were just found altering their calendars slightly to account for this extra time in orbit. I've got another article that I wanted to pull up and actually read to you guys here because I thought it was kind of interesting. I didn't know this, but there are actually leap year cities that celebrate this. And so I'm going to kind of talk about the cities. There's 2 cities in Anthony, Texas and Anthony, New Mexico. Many local residents work in agriculture, farming crops such as pecans, alfalfa, and cotton. And back in 1988, Anthony residents Marianne Brown and Bertie Lewis, they were neighbors, shared a leap day birthday. So it was suggested a worldwide leap year festival and worldwide leap year birthday club to their Chamber of Commerce. And they hoped that their unique idea would attract visitors and fundraise for the community. The neighbors believed that no other place in the world regularly hosted such an event. So the festival launched that same year, and eventually the governors of both states declared the Anthony's the leap year capital of the world. So that's why it's Anthony, Texas and Anthony, New Mexico. So hopefully you guys are learning something about leap year because we had some research and we kind of looked some things up and we thought it was kind of interesting. So that was something that we found. All right. So we're going to go through some leap year facts and then we're going to also talk about how it relates to hearing or your ears. I know, like we figured this out. So leap year fact number 1. So as always, if you're watching, if you're tuning in, put up some comments if you have a question for us, if you have a comment or a laugh or whatever it is. This is kind of a fun show today, but we would love for you guys to engage and be in our live show with us. Okay, so leap year fact number 1. We didn't have leap year until Julius Caesar decided that we needed one. So I thought this was kind of interesting, but long before we got used to having this extra day in our calendars every 4 years, Julius Caesar and the astronomer, I'm not sure if I'm going to say his name correct, but Sosigenes, that's my best guess, of Alexandria, shook things up in 46 BC with the creation of the Julian calendar. And Sosigenes noticed that the Roman calendar was out of step with the seasons and suggested introducing leap years to keep things aligned. But they went a little overboard and they kept adding leap years, more leap years than necessary. And so Julius Caesar was the reason why that we started to have a leap year. So let's talk a little bit more about Julius Caesar. And I'm going to have Mary Kate talk about the ear fact, because this is all things odd regarding Julius Caesar.
Yeah, so the interesting thing, I had no idea about this, but apparently Julius Caesar had a falling sickness, and it was assumed that it might have been epilepsy, but we also are thinking that he had unilateral deafness, so single-sided deafness, one side couldn't quite hear as well, because there are quotes when he was talking to some people that like he worked with in the Greek times. Antony about Cassius is, he says, come on my right hand, for this ear is deaf. And so we know, he was using good communication strategies, telling people where they should be standing so that he could hear them. And with that in mind, kind of the falling sickness, the single-sided deafness leads us to question whether or not it might have been Meniere's disease. And so if you've heard us talk about Meniere's before, that's kind of fluctuating hearing loss, fluctuating fullness, and could lead to like drop attacks where you get struck with vertigo kind of out of nowhere. And it's pretty debilitating for a lot of people that have it. And so that's kind of our thing, is maybe Julius Caesar had Meniere's. Yeah. And that's how it relates to the leap year and hearing.
Yeah, especially with the unilateral deafness on the one side. I'm just thinking about like, how would have they even figured that out? Because the way that we figure out if you've got Meniere's disease is a test, and you have to actually have the symptoms acutely. Like you have to have the current symptoms in order for us to say, yep, that's Meniere's, and even if they did, like, what would they do? Because right now with Meniere's disease, we have you either do a low salt diet or a diuretic. And I'm sure they didn't have, homeopathic remedies maybe back then, I don't know, or to reduce the salt content. I don't know how much they could have done that. So I think it's interesting, but they did say that Julius Caesar did have this falling sickness. And the only thing that we can think of that aligns with it is possible that he might have had Meniere's disease. So I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, so that's leap year fact number 1. Okay, leap year fact number 2 is that leap year is a tradition where women propose to men. So leap years bring this tradition of women proposing to men, and it was a practice that originated from a deal between Saint Bridget and Saint Patrick in the 5th century Ireland. And this leap year loophole allowed women to break free from waiting for men to propose to them. So over time, this evolved from a serious social opportunity to a more lighthearted tradition, with some of these places actually enacting fines for men who dared to refuse a leap day proposal. So watch out, men. On leap year, if women are going to propose to you, like, you might actually have a fine if you do not accept that proposal. So that was kind of funny. So we thought we'd look up some ear facts about how does gender play a role in hearing loss. And I'm going to have Mary Kate talk about it.
Yeah. Well, besides the fact that men have selective hearing, as we all know, there is actually some research behind it. And so according to the National Institute on Deafness and Communication Disorders, men are twice as likely to experience hearing loss. Very interesting. Along with that, from the NIHL, men are nearly 3 times as more likely to develop hearing loss as women. So a little bit different there. And then it goes on to talk about how we both, men and women, experience noise-induced hearing loss. So it's men are about 3 times more likely to have noise-induced hearing loss. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I believe that. Some things that can attribute to that is like where they work. So if you're in like a factory, or if you work in like a loud environment and you're not wearing hearing protection, shooting guns, things like that. I think that women probably do a better job of just kind of wearing hearing protection or thinking about things like that versus men. So that kind of tracks in my mind. The other thing is Meniere's disease it most commonly affects people 20 to 60, and it is thought to be slightly more common in women versus men, which I have heard that. Mm-hmm. And then also otosclerosis disproportionately affects women, usually around like childbearing ages. And women, I think it's like 2 or 3 times more likely to have otosclerosis than men. Mm. Also, in addition to the leap year, they made a movie on that about a woman that proposes to her boyfriend.
Oh, that's in
Ireland. True. Yeah, it's called Leap Year.
It's called Leap Year. Yeah, that's true. So like thinking about noise-induced hearing loss too, like we can easily say that from the research that has been put out so far, that men have more hearing loss than women because of the maybe environmental or occupational hazards, right? But I'd be willing to say, in the next couple of years too, if somebody actually did that research again, if it would start to even out just a little bit more, because we do find more women in those type of occupational types of positions or job positions as well. And then Meniere's, or otosclerosis too. I was thinking about why would it be more women than men? But when you said it was more in the childbearing years, maybe it's the calcium, right? Or maybe it's something in the bone density that is being taken away with the, or because of the baby, right? That they're carrying.
Hormonal changes, things like that.
That maybe the bones get a little bit weaker, or, otosclerosis is definitely something that where the bones are fused, but something with the bone density or something might be a little more common with women during the childbearing years, because I was trying to think about why it would be more women than men. So yeah. All right. And then the last leap year fact that we put together is, there's this time difference. Like we talked about this time difference right in the beginning, where based on our Gregorian calendar, like there are 365 days in a year because that's where the sun is, right? But technically, like Earth orbits the sun and it takes about 365.25. So for those mathletes that are out there, like that bothers you because there's a 0.25. So that's why every 4 years there is that leap day that makes up for it, right? So if we're looking at the leap day in the year, basically it says that we would be off about 24 days every century or every 100 years. And there are 525,600 minutes in a typical calendar year. Sorry, I just got the Rent song in my head. About I'm not going to sing it right now. So I was just kind of thinking about the number of minutes in a year. My musical theater people are going to be laughing because they're probably singing along that Rent song as well. But in a leap year, instead of 525,600 minutes, there is 500.
That's in my head.
Sorry, there's 527,040 minutes, which means there is an extra 1,440 minutes in a year, or 1440, right? So let's just keep it easy. So we're going to tell you what can you do exactly with those extra 1,440 minutes thanks to leap year.
Yeah, so with your extra time today, you can go and get your hearing tested. An audiogram takes about 15 to 20 minutes per appointment. So you definitely have time for that today. Yep. The other one is learning about your options to hear better, doing a little bit of like a consultation with us. We can talk about hearing aids, different devices, things like that. That takes probably about 30 to 45 minutes. In addition to that, you can learn about tinnitus. If you have tinnitus, Dr. Phillips is a great resource to just kind of sit down and talk with. And those consultations, those chats to learn more about it take about 45 to 60 minutes, a little bit longer, but it's important to learn about. And then, the easiest one is to call and schedule an appointment with our office. It takes about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit less, and you get to talk to Susan and Effie, and they're great. So plenty of extra time today.
Plenty,
hopefully we get to see some of you guys coming in or using your extra time to schedule your hearing test today. I know I will be using it to just kind of catch up on all the things I've fallen behind with.
Yeah. So again, it's for today only. So happy leap year, or leap day, I should say, and leap year. But for today, instead of singing that song of 525,600 minutes, you will have to now sing 527,040 minutes. Doesn't have the best,
not the same, right?
Yeah, it's not the same thing, but you have that extra time to call in and make your appointment. So we hope that we are able to hear from you. Thanks for joining in, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of All Things Odd. We will not be here next week, just FYI, because we are doing something. It's actually a surprise. So you have to stay tuned, follow us on social media, and you'll see maybe what happens next week, Thursday, because we are going to be doing something really special. So we won't be there next week and possibly the following week, but we'll be back soon. And we'll see you guys then. Thanks for tuning in.